In the current era of gaming, we're all very used to jumping into online play in a Discord server filled with a bunch of our friends. Now, whilst this is undoubtedly fun to do, there isn't much that can beat a single player campaign mode that has you immersed in the story. Thankfully, there are a ton of games out there on the market today that offer this exact experience. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you 10 of the best options to choose from. Whether you're into exploration games that will keep you busy for hours, or fantasy games that will have you fighting all sorts of mythical creatures, we'll be going over a whole variety of titles that will have you covered. So with all that being said, let's get straight into the list. Kicking off the list strong, we have the absolute masterpiece that is Elden Ring. The latest addition to the Soulsborne series was an instant hit from launch and provides the player with endless hours of exploration and fighting mechanics that will keep you coming back for more. The open world in this game is also breathtakingly vast, with there being some areas that you might have never seen before after 100+ hours of playing. Everywhere you explore will have new enemies, bosses and items, keeping the game feeling fresh throughout. All in all, the main story will take the average player around 80 hours to complete, but trust me, that isn't even close to the amount of time you'll spend in the lands between. Because seeing as the story is non-linear, you can in theory go anywhere you like from the very beginning. This will have you getting lost as you roam around in the awe of the stunning level design, but will bring you crashing back down to reality when you run into a boss that you're severely underleveled for. The entire game is a joy to play from start to finish, and while it may have an incredibly steep learning curve for new players to Souls titles, it will certainly have you hooked if you give it a chance. Speaking of breathtaking level design, we have our next entrant on the list, Forza Horizon 5. The Forza series has always been largely considered as one of the best racing games there is, and this iteration has only strengthened the argument for that. The open world campaign seems to be never ending, as you can drive practically wherever you want, taking on new races and chipping away at the main storyline. But once you're done with all the major events in the game, you certainly won't be sat twiddling your thumbs, as there's a ton of additional challenges to be getting on with. It'll definitely take you a while to complete them all, but will never seem like it's dragging on too much due to the extremely impressive gameplay, which is something we've now come to expect from Forza titles. It's also quite amazing how smooth it all is, considering that this game definitely pushes the Xbox Series X's power to the limit. So even if you're not a petrol head and fancy a game to relax and spend hours playing, you have to try out Forza Horizon 5. If the main thing you're interested in when choosing which of these games to play is the storyline, then Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably the one that you should go for. Honestly, this campaign is roughly 45 to 50 hours of gripping storytelling, keeping you right on the edge of your seat as you wait for the next curveball to be thrown at you. But don't worry, much the same as the other two games that we've mentioned so far, Red Dead Redemption 2 offers a wide variety of side quests to complete once you're done with the main storyline, so you'll have plenty to do. And even if you're not completing tasks or progressing in the story, just roaming around and taking in the scenery is a great pastime, which is why Red Dead is comfortably on our list as one of the best single player campaign games. Now the next game we're covering might seem like a dated one, but believe me, The Witcher 3 still holds up extremely well in today's gaming climate, especially with the updated graphics on the Series X and PS5 if you play on console. If you're unfamiliar with the Witcher franchise, it's a huge open world RPG game similar to some that we've previously mentioned. Your task is to hunt various monsters and eventually find the Child of Prophecy. It might not make much sense now, but trust me, it's worth picking up and trying out. As soon as you get into the story, you won't want to stop playing. Whilst it may not be as fantasy based as games like Elden Ring, it's certainly still in that genre where you feel like you're in a completely different world. So if you're looking for something to get lost in whilst playing, then I'd highly recommend giving The Witcher 3 a try. These days, Star Wars games seem to either be an absolute blast or pretty forgettable. There aren't many in between, but of course the Star Wars game that we've chosen, Jedi Fallen Order, is a good one. Although the combat is pretty difficult and will almost certainly take some time getting used to, if you can master it, you'll be feeling like the chosen one taking out hordes of stormtroopers. In terms of storyline, your aim is pretty predictable, to become a Jedi Knight, with a lot of the emphasis being placed on combat throughout. Like many of the other Star Wars titles though, the animations look, well, really cool for lack of a better term. So it won't feel like it's getting too repetitive, and even if it does, there's plenty of exploring that you can do to break up the game. As far as single player experiences go, Jedi Fallen Order ticks most of the boxes. Uncharted is a series that most PlayStation players hold close to their hearts, and one they often hold up as evidence that their console is superior. And if you play them, you'll see why. Uncharted 4 is the final game in the series and might just be the best of the bunch. From its stunning visuals to its incredible gameplay, it really is a true classic that delivers an unforgettable gaming experience, especially in the remastered version that they released for PlayStation 5 in 2022. What makes it really solidify a place on our list is its storyline though, as this game does an incredible job of tying everything together into a satisfying ending for the player. The only slight issue with this entrant is that you'll need to play through the rest of the series before fully enjoying A Thief's End for what it is. So if you're not familiar with the Uncharted games before this one, then we'd highly recommend you go out and get to know them. You won't regret it. We mentioned Dying Light 2 in our previous video telling you 5 games that you need to play in 2022, and here we are again including it on the best single player campaign games list. One of the things that held the original Dying Light back a little bit was the lack of an engaging storyline in it, which has been addressed in the sequels, so if you get bored of smashing zombies' heads in, then you have a great alternative to concentrate on. With that being said though, much like the first game, the combat mechanics are brilliant and have received a huge improvement overall, with there now being even more innovative ways of slaying the undead. There's also been a noticeable focus on smoothing out the free running aspect too, making the entire experience so much more enjoyable as you're able to explore the entire map with almost no boundaries. Dying Light 2 is one of the best zombie killers on the market and is a great option if you're looking for a single player game to get stuck into. Even though in more recent years GTA 5 has become more popular for its online gameplay than anything else, it's still an incredibly fun and engaging single player game, and holds up well to current titles with its exhilarating and often hilarious gameplay. There's actually a very engaging story for the player to delve into, filled with interesting character arcs and some pretty crazy missions. But as is the case with most GTA titles, one of the most enjoyable things to do is to simply roam around causing havoc. In Los Santos, you have a huge city to explore with many different side quests and other things to be getting on with. You could seriously sit there for multiple hours without progressing in the story at all. So don't be put off by the age of the game, as you only have to look at the current player base to see how popular it is, and for good reason too. Now all we need is for Rockstar to announce GTA 6 and all will be right with the world. The next game we're looking at is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is a very different game to the ones we've already shown you, with it being a platformer. If you're not used to this genre, then this would be a great first game to play to introduce you to it. The level design and art style are stunning, along with the soundtrack perfectly suiting every level. It really makes for a great experience all round. The main thing you'll be focusing on though is the story, although seeing as this is a sequel to the 2015 release Ori and the Blind Forest, you might want to familiarise yourself with that before you play Will of the Wisps. If you want a calm and completely offline game to play, then this would be an excellent choice. On to our final pick, we have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This absolute classic is widely considered to be one of the best games, let alone one of the best single player games of all time. The perfect blend between storyline, exploration, and puzzle solving keeps the gameplay feeling new and fresh throughout, and fully allows the player to progress at their own pace. The only downside is that it's only available on the Nintendo Switch and the Wii U. You know, that console that revolutionized gaming as we know it, so it's not exactly ideal in terms of playability for a lot of people. However, if you own a Switch, then this game should be top of your list of ones to play if you haven't already. It really makes the most of the Switch's capabilities and will keep you entertained for hours. Also, potentially the best thing about it is that despite there being many other Zelda games out there, you can certainly play Breath of the Wild without prior knowledge of the story. So if you're looking for a great solo adventure, then this one has to be on your wish list. So they were our picks for the 10 best single player campaign games in 2022. If you enjoyed the video and didn't disagree with every single entrant, then do consider subscribing to the channel, and if you have any games of your own that you think should have been mentioned, be sure to let us know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.